Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Regina. Today, I have my friend Mallika Malhotra.
You
Did I
got
pronounce
it.
that right? I really got it right?
Yeah.
Awesome. You can see her name on the screen right there. So excuse my trying to butcher the pronunciation of your name. Um, Mallika is a brand strategist, a mentor, a speaker, and um, we've had a couple conversations. We met recently through a mutual friend, and she has an amazing background from a brand standpoint. She's worked with L'Oreal, she's worked with Olay in their advertising departments, and she now helps women entrepreneurs get clear on their brand message. And one of the things that I really love is she says that her friends call her the brand energizer because she's a strong believer of getting out of your comfort zone, taking action, and implementing ideas. And I love your bio, by the way. And she adds on to her bio that when she's not building brands, Mallika is drinking coffee with Regina, or red wine. So I like that differentiation. So we have morning and we have evening. That's great. Reading a stack of books, dreaming about her next global adventure. And she lives in Maine with her husband, 3 sons, and a mini Bernie doodle, Jax.
Yes.
So I need to first know, I'm going to just say welcome
Thank
first.
you.
And then I really want to know, what is a Bernie doodle?
So it's half poodle and half Bernese mountain dog. Super cute. So cute. So of course you have like the hypoallergenic part of the poodle, right? They don't smell, they don't shed. But then you have the color, that caramel black and white of those big Bernese mountain dogs. So it's a great combo. We love our Jacks.
So is Jax a big dog or a little dog?
So that's the thing. So he's supposed to be a mini Bernedoodle, but because the Bernese Mountain Dog is so big, you never know. So he's about 40 pounds. I did think he was going to be 30 pounds. So he's a little bit bigger than what was expected.
That is so funny. I've never heard of a Bernie doodle before, so that was a first for me. So tell me a little bit. I know we had conversations about branding, and as a business owner, why is branding so important?
Yes. So you cannot really be in business today without a brand, in my opinion. You know, your brand is the story, the impression, the reputation that you are building to your audience so that you can kind of develop that quick and deep connection. And so in today's modern economy, right, there's so much competition. There are so many people that are probably doing exactly what you're doing. So in order for you to stand out, in order for you to provide meaningful value and to actually have depth and connection with your audience, you need to shape and create a brand for yourself. You don't want to be a commodity where people buy you based on price, right? You want to have a story that has meaning, that tells people what you believe in, why you do this work in the first place, what your vision is, as well as the value and the transformation that you can give them. And all of those pieces are part of crafting that brand for yourself so that, again, you can stand out from the rest, that you can deepen your connection, that you can build that know, like, and trust factor. So there's many reasons why we all need to be shaping and developing a brand for our business.
Yeah, as a business consultant, that's what I help people understand is that know, like, and trust. I don't really get deep into all the branding. And you mentioned a couple things there because honestly, when I think of branding, I think of my logo, I think of, letterhead, I think of website, I think of that kind of stuff. You include it in, it's not just that, it's just story, it's what makes you unique. I've never really considered that as part of my brand.
So all those things that you mentioned, the colors, the logo, the typography, that's part of your brand, but those are your expressions of the brand. When I think about brand, I think about the strategy, the story behind the business. And that's where we're talking about, what do you believe in? What are the values that you're putting a stake in the ground for? What is your mission, your big why, the purpose of your brand, right? The transformation that you create for your clients, your point of difference. All of that is going to shape your story and build that connection with your audience more so than what your website looks like, what the colors you've picked, what the logo looks like. I'm not discounting the importance of those things. They are important, but really the work has to be done first of that self-discovery, the self-awareness, asking yourself those big questions to develop what the strategy and the story is. Because how are you going to pick your colors? How are you going to launch a website, create a social media feed if you don't know the foundation of your brand?
Right. And so when I think of that stuff, I think about that as the foundation of your business. So tying that into the brand is that's actually an aha for me, because that's what I do as a business transformation consultant. I start with the, what does your foundation look like?
Mhm.
I don't go into the, okay, how do we make that into your brand and how do we transform that? I never really thought about the connection of those. However, you said something, because when you said about the, that, your niche and everything else, one of the things I teach people is how to make sure that they're not selling themselves. They're basically providing the result that their clients are looking for. It's not about, your business isn't about you. Your
Right.
business is about the result that they want. And putting that stuff together and understanding what it is can define your brand. I never actually considered that. I mean, my Autumn Ascent, my little logo is up in the corner there.
Right.
I created that before I even knew who my target market was.
Right.
I created it because I came up with a name and I just wanted something to represent the name. I never really put the thought behind, well, what does that actually mean? And what is Autumn Ascent as a company? I mean, I know my niche. I know all that stuff. I've just never put the two of them together.
But if you had thought about that before you developed the logo, then maybe you would have done something a little bit different, because then your ideal client, which is part of your brand experience, right? They would come to mind of like, what would they really resonate with? What would they really click with or would connect with them? And that's where, before launching your logo, before hiring a brand photographer, before hiring the copywriter, you have to get really clear on what your message is, and that's tied to your brand. That's the strategy behind your brand. So I think it is a misconception that people think branding is really the visual elements. And while it's a part of it, the real part, the part that we have to work on and define and get clear on, is the story, the messaging, the niche, right? The ideal client, how we are a specialist as part of the brand story, how we stand out from everybody else. What's that point of difference? And getting the confidence and the clarity and the consistency around that is what's going to next level your brand.
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. And it's actually given me a lot of thoughts for my business as well. So let me ask you this. Do you work with a lot of people who come in that are like me and say, well, I had all this stuff and I set it all up because, this looked good to me and it sounded good. Autumn Ascent for me was about my clientele. My demographic is women 40 and older who are our coaches and consultants. So it was, a lot of them are moving out of their corporate job and into basically the end of their life business. They're finally getting into their purpose and what they want to do. So Autumn Ascent. So
Yep.
that was the moving into the autumn. That was where I came up with that. However, I never put the whole brand stuff behind it. So if somebody was like me and said, you know what, now that I really know who my people are, I've got my business going, things are going great, Autumn Ascent doesn't necessarily fit anymore. Do you get people who are rebranding, and kind of what is that process?
Yeah, so many of my clients are evolving, or they're pivoting, or some things aren't working some more, or maybe some competition has come into the marketplace, which is making them reevaluate. And so the branding process that I bring them through is really like, first looking at themselves, really assessing what their skills and their strengths, leveraging their experiences, their expertise, and trying to figure out what their zone of genius is that they can put a stake in the ground as who they want to be in terms of a specialization. Then we kind of talk about their specific audience, right? Who they want to serve. And we get selective. You are not meant to work with everybody, right? So maybe you have to do an audit of your last 10 clients and see who you got the best results with, who you love to work with, who actually paid you what you're worth. So there's a lot of auditing and assessing and evaluating. Next, we have to look at, how we are different than everyone else. Why did people choose us? Do we have that data? People telling us why we chose you over everyone else. And a tip that I'll share is like, look at your testimonials, because often in your testimonial is why people chose to work with you over somebody else. And then lastly, there is looking at how you solve that problem. Do you have a framework? Do you have an offer? So going through all of these pieces, it doesn't matter if you're starting new or if you're rebranding, the strategy remains the same. And so knowing this, do you need to change your name? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you have so much equity behind Autumn Ascent that you can take that, but use a different positioning, but attach it to the new positioning. So it's a lot of experimentation sometimes, where you have to go out and talk to your audience to validate and test things and see what kind of feedback you're getting, and use that data to then steer your brand, maybe in a rebrand or a slight tweak. But branding is never one and done. It's organic. It is always kind of competitive marketplace, and how we're serving our clients and what their problems are and what problems are not getting solved, right? So even though you might have a logo that's set and your colors in your website, people I work with, we're always tweaking the messaging, because that's how we're going to increase the relevance and the resonance with our clients.
Right. And you just hit the nail on the head right there with some of it, is because a lot of people think that the branding, it's like, okay, I've got the branding, all that stuff's done. Now I'm moving on to the next thing, where branding is ever evolving. It's a continuous improvement process. And you made the comment that, it's based on the market. The market is changing all the time.
Right.
New people coming in, new things are coming out, new strategies, new
Technology.
programs, new technology, all kinds of stuff. It's changing. We're in a place, I think, in the world today where everything just, it turns on a dime. It changes so fast. And you need to be it's kind of like you need to be one step ahead. You need to be on top of it, because if you fall behind, that's when your competition or whatever. I don't believe in competition, honestly. So I just believe that there's people out there that have their purpose, and if you resonate with me, you work with me. If you don't resonate with me, there's somebody who does exactly what I do. They do it their way. I do it my way. They do it their way. If you resonate with them, great, go work with them. There's enough people out there for everybody, so I don't compete. However, when you think about that branding, why are they even going to look at me if they don't know me? Right. Unless there's something that's going to draw them in and attract them. So to get the initial eyeballs on me, I need to actually pay attention to my branding.
Yes. And, I agree with you about the competition. You don't want to get obsessed. You want to kind of keep your blinders on and keep kind of working towards your own personal best, right? But when it comes to branding and positioning, you can't ignore the marketplace. And so we want to carve a place for you that makes you memorable, referable, and findable. And so that's where looking at, 2 or 3 of your key competitors and understanding how they position themselves, who they attract, so that you can differentiate yourself. And so you're not looking like them, and you're actually creating your own space for your own brand, so that you can solve new problems or bring new ideas to the marketplace. That's where you need to kind of evaluate the competition, not to get obsessed and to look at their pricing and your pricing. It's more about the positioning. If they are owning this and there is a space for this, maybe I should consider shifting my brand message to actually appeal to that. So that's where it's important in terms of your brand position, to kind of know what everybody else is saying, so that you're not looking like a clone or a cookie cutter, and you're actually shaping your brand so that, you're developing your own niche, so that you're not competing with anyone.
Yeah, I teach that to my clients as well. It's about that, your unique factor. So what is it that makes you you? And I think a lot of people get tied up in the whole business of things. And that's when they start going, well, this one's doing this, so I'm going to do that too. This one's doing that, so I'm going to do that too. And they become the cookie cutters. Right. And if you become a cookie cutter and like everybody else, then people are purchasing based on price. If everybody's the same, then they're just purchasing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's important, and that's where you need to do some of the work of leveraging your passions, your skills, your values, credentials, previous work experience. What can you leverage and put into your brand that other people can't? And not enough people do that work to really do the self-discovery and the self-assessment of, let's do this like brand map and lay it all on the table. I have advertising experience that you mentioned. I'm going to talk about that because that makes me different than someone who didn't have any corporate marketing or advertising experience. I'm going to use that to my favor to attract people that think that I have the experience of working on big campaigns, and I can use that to work on our personal brand campaigns, right? So it is important to know all of your skills and your strengths, your passions, your values, your experiences, comb through that and really pull out what you can use to differentiate your brand.
I love that. That's we are so on target with each other when it comes to this. So I'm loving this conversation. You mentioned something in there as you were going through that is probably just something that you just do. However, it was a term that I hadn't really heard. What is a brand map?
A brand map. So for me, a brand map, I go through an exercise with my clients to determine their brand brilliance. So we put your name in the middle, and we have like a brand map where you have passions, and you kind of list out in bubbles all your passions. You have your values, things that you believed in. You have previous jobs that you may have had in the last 10 years. You have any sort of trainings or credentials that you've accumulated. You have personal interests, things that might add some dimension to your brand that make you a little bit different. So now you have this big map of who you are, right? Professional, personal experiences, trainings, credentials, degrees, layers of passions and interests and values. And now holistically, you can see your brand brilliance, really who you are. And then what it takes then as a next step, which is the harder step, is, are there any patterns or common threads here that keep coming up that really rise to the surface, that are integral to your story, that you should be pulling out as part of your brand story?
I love that whole thing. And so a brand map is a mind map
Yes.
specifically for branding. And everybody who has ever seen posts from me or works with me or is out in my group knows that I absolutely love mind maps. I use them all the time because they're so powerful. And I really loved how you set out here's what you're passionate about. Here's what the last 10 jobs, here's your skills, here's all these different things, so that when you see the whole picture, that's what I love so much about mind maps, is that once you put it all out there and you see it all together, all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, look, that goes to that, that goes to that. Oh, this is what makes me unique.
Yes.
That combination of my stuff is what makes me unique. And I always tell people that there is nobody walking the face of this earth who is like you, who is exactly like you. Sure, they may have gone to the same college, they may have gone to and got the same degrees. However, they heard the training differently than you heard it, and are putting it into different places based on who you are, your beliefs, all your values. And so all of that stuff builds that unique. And then you take that and shape that into the brand. So I love that.
And what I'll say too is, when we go through this exercise, the confidence level goes through the roof, because you're looking at your story here, and it's all the data that's there about you. And so any imposter syndrome that you might have, any somebody else sells the same product as me, or I could never do that, it kind of goes away because it's all here. Your story is laid out. So I love to go through that exercise, because all of us go through that, right? Imposter syndrome, all of that mind chatter in our heads that's saying we can't do something, or can't charge something, or can't show up and talk about something. But when you do that exercise, it's a reminder of, you have depth and soul and layers to your life and brand. And we just have to really kind of comb through that and pick out what is juicy to put into your brand so that now you can stand in that power. I really say that to my clients. I want you to stand in that power because it's all there on paper.
Yeah, I love that. It's finding out who you authentically are, and what your values are and what your real purpose in life is, and putting that all out there, because that's, it makes you unique. And I just love the way you structure it, and I love the brand brilliance. Find your brand brilliance.
Yes.
And there's just so much that, there's so much good information in this right now. Is there any specific tips that you would give somebody who is just, they're a business owner, they're doing their thing, and they just aren't sure, what to do next?
Yes. I mean, I get this question a lot, like, how do I even start? And so I really try to simplify it. There's like a few questions that you can ask yourself as, the gateway to shaping and developing your brand. And the first is to really kind of get clear on, what do you believe in, right? What are you willing to put a stake in the ground? There's probably something that upsets you in your industry or upsets you with the client process. There's something that you feel like part of that, your purpose, right? So getting clear on that, what you really believe in, your values. The second is who are you meant to serve? Again, you're not meant to work with everybody. Can you get crystal clear in developing that client avatar of that specific person? Because if you can have that person in your head, anything and everything you do becomes like a love letter to them. The third is, how are you different from the rest? And we said this, don't obsess about your competition, but you have to define how you're different. Is it in your expertise? Is it in the audience you serve? Is it in your approach? Is it in your mindset and personality? Get clear on that. Maybe it's a multiple things, but you kind of have to know. And if you don't know, ask your clients, ask your peers. And then the last thing is, know the transformation that you are creating. Often it is not the features and the products and the offers, but it's the outcome that we give to our clients. It's the results, how we change their lives. And if you can really nail that, if you can really understand that, it doesn't matter what you sell, because what you're selling is that transformation. And there's sometimes a disconnect with a lot of people where they get very obsessed with, it's a 60-minute call or a 90-minute call, the program is 4 months, or it doesn't even matter. What matters is what's going to happen at the end. So again, it's what you stand for, who you serve, how are you different, and what is the transformation or outcome that you're creating for your client. When you can answer those things, now you're starting to shape your brand. And I encourage you to talk about those things. Do an Instagram live talking about one of those things. Have a post in a Facebook group that you lead that talks about your values. And then what you'll feel is that you're starting to create like a humanness, a soul, a story to your brand. And it's not just a name and a title.
Yeah, and that's exactly what builds the know, like, trust.
Yeah.
Because if people don't know you and you're just out there saying, hey, I have this great program. If you're this kind of person, you need to look at this program. That doesn't really work, because if they don't know you, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've signed up for many a class in the past where I signed up, went and did the class, and ended up being the shelf help because I never looked at it again. And, at the end of the day, I kind of went, wow, that was a total waste.
Right.
And it was because at the time, I didn't do that. I didn't know. It was the shiny object. They
Right.
had a great brand. They had a great, it brought me in. However, they didn't have everything. They just had something that it was like, the shiny object looks good. Ooh, that interests me. So I'm going to purchase it.
Right.
And then it was like, okay, so now what?
Right.
And you said, it's about the end result. And it really is. When I'm doing consulting, when you're setting up somebody's brand, it's not about, I mean, there's all the stuff that goes with it. It's really that end result. Am I helping my clients get more clients?
Right.
That's my job. That's the result, is to get them more clients. Your job is to make sure that their brand is out there so it attracts those people in to get them more clients. So if that end result isn't working, then something needs to shift. And so it's really cool how you do all that upfront work so that you can make sure that by the time all this branding gets out there, that you're consistently sending a message that helps people understand who you are as not just a business person and somebody, who has something or may have something that you want to look at. They know you as a person.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like, I think our buyers, our audiences, they're very sophisticated now, right? They all use R on social media. They're used to all of the sales techniques, the old sales techniques. So that's why pulling the curtain and being a human and trying to connect emotionally through your brand is important, because people are looking to have a relationship. It's not transactional anymore. It's more sophisticated. They want to have a relationship with a brand. They want to be in alignment with the brand's values, right? That's why people buy from Patagonia versus someone else. That's why people, buy their lingerie from Third Love and not Victoria's Secret, because Third Love is about celebrating women of all sizes. There are values that we are sharing now as part of our brand that speak to people and have us connect and bond stronger. So that's what people are expecting now. So us as entrepreneurs and small business owners, we also have to share our values and our mission and all that juicy stuff instead of just the offers and the products and the services. And so that's where your brand almost becomes an invitation, where you're saying, listen, this is what I believe in. This is why I do this work. This is the vision I have, the movement I'm trying to create. And if you're in alignment, let's work together. It's an invitation. It's not transactional anymore.
Yeah, I love that. You just have it like so tied up in a nice little bow to make it to include everything to make sure that it just works. So I really love that, and want to ask in the few minutes that we have left. So, do you have anything? Do you have a guide or anything that you give away for free that has information? Or I know I have your website, so I will add your website out there. Do you have anything else out there that you'd like to share?
Well, I'd love to share with your audience. I have a free guide called Ready, Set, Brand, and it's like a cheat sheet to gaining brand clarity. So often, we talked about mission statements, vision statements, positioning. What I've done in this guide is given you a Mad Lib sort of plug and play guideline of how you can create your own brand mission, vision, and positioning statements, because sometimes it takes that foundation, right, to get started in the brand building. I will definitely share that link with your audience. And then the next step, if you're wanting to do DIY your own brand building, I have something called Brand Confidential Blueprint, which is sort of 21 steps to really developing your brand story. And then if you're really looking to work with me as a brand expert in your back pocket, I have a mastermind called Brand Breakthrough. It's a 4-month container, which launches every January and every September.
Oh, that is amazing. That is fabulous. If you want to or can, please drop those links underneath this inside the groups so that, our audience can check it out, because I mean, this is just so much amazing information, and it kind of, we're all looking for that thing. What sets us apart? What is that thing that makes us unique, that makes people want to come to us instead of somebody else? I work primarily with women coaches and consultants.
Mm-hmm.
There are, I'm just going to say millions
Yes.
of coaches and consultants out there. And so when you're out in a field that is that big, there's a lot of, we'll call them fake coaches and consultants out there. There's a lot of people who said, they may have gotten laid off or something and said, hey, I'm going to become a coach. And they just hung up a shingle and said, hey, I'm just going to start doing a business. I have no idea what I'm doing. However, I'm just going to take what I have in my life experience and just become a coach. Sometimes I know a couple of people who did that it actually worked great because of their past experience. They were just natural born coaches, so it worked really well. Other ones, not so much. And so when you think about that, and the people who are doing that, the thing that makes you stand out so that people know, hey, I want to come, chat with Mallika, because they hear the difference in it. It's, wow, she really knows what she's talking about. She is different than other people that I've talked to. She has the system in place. And, and then they learn stuff like, hey, you got this real cool Bernie Doodle dog that Bernie Doodle dog, so people learn a little bit about you
Right.
and, it makes you a human. You're not just a machine that's helping people, do their stuff or selling something to them. You're alive, you're authentic, you're genuinely concerned about making sure that you get the result for your client that they're looking for. So I really love that about what you do.
Thank you so much. I mean, I couldn't say it better myself. So I really think even if you're in a saturated industry, we all have something to offer our clients. And by getting specific sometimes is our way to connect faster and deeper. And so would love to help any of you if you're looking to define your niche better. That is my superpower, especially for coaches and consultants, because I know it can sometimes feel like it's hard. It's hard to stand out. But I know your audience has the skills and the strengths to stand out. It just takes a little tweaking and some messaging help with an expert.
Yeah, so that this has been great. Your website is up on the screen there, so it's your name. So I'm going to have people copy that out of the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. We are actually just a little over time, and so I just want to thank you. I could actually probably chat with you like
Oh my God, it went so
for a
fast.
couple hours on this branding stuff, and but we'll nip it there. And if you want to connect with Mallika, her website's there. She'll drop in some links to all that awesome stuff that she talked about. I know I have a copy of Ready Set Brand, and it's a really cool document. So you definitely need to check that one out. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you catch us on the replay, just put #replay in there. Coffee with Regina. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.